Well, things seem like they ought to be great in this country. Officially, the unemployment rate is low, crime is low, technology makes life easier than ever before. And yet, for many, and you may have noticed this, there is a sense of decline and even desperation. It's omnipresent in some places. Nicholas Eberstadt is a political economist at the American Enterprise Institute. In an amazing new piece called Our Miserable 21st Century, Eberstadt highlights the hellscape that is some of America, a land of opioid addiction, joblessness, and despair, existential despair. The article draws heavily from his recent book, Men Without Work, America's Invisible Crisis, and he joins us here on the set. It's a great piece. It's got the most depressing title I've ever read. It's the most depressing piece I've read this year, and yet it's so true, and it explains why we're where we are politically. So just summarize it, how did this happen?
Well, we entered the 21st century with the makings of a classic populist reaction. We've got a stock market that's going upwards and upwards and upwards, more wealth than ever before, a pretty crummy economy, and the bottom has dropped out on the labor market.
Yes.
So we've got more wealth for wealth holders, bad economy, and less work for workers than in any time in memory.
What's so frustrating living in Washington, where I know you live also, is being bombarded with fake statistics from the federal government. And prime among them, as you point out, is the unemployment rate. You say this. The unemployment rate increasingly looks like an antique index devised for some earlier and increasingly distant war, the economic equivalent of a musket inventory or a cavalry count. Why is it a false statistic?
Well, it's misleading. I mean, the actual little pieces in it are fine, but they're telling you the wrong thing. I mean, back in the days when we had a kind of a Dickensian world, when guys could either have a job or had to be looking for one, unemployment wasn't a bad way of looking at things. There's a third way now, which is neither working nor looking for work. And that's been the fastest growing demographic group of working age men for 50 years. There are now 3 times as many guys in the prime working age, 25 to 54, who are neither working nor looking for work as unemployed. So if you're looking at unemployment rates, you're looking at the wrong story.
It's amazing how many politicians fall into the deceit when they repeat that. Now, one measure you use, which I think seems like a pretty accurate one, are health outcomes. You want to measure the health of a society, look at the physical health.
Sure.
And you say in some ways ours is declining.
Well, if you look at what's happened, especially for Anglos, for non-Hispanic whites, for less educated non-Hispanic whites, we've got a death rate that's been going up since about the year 2000. And a lot of those increases have been due to overdoses, poisonings,
yes,
suicide, cirrhosis. I mean, I've done a lot of work on communist countries and on post-communist countries. This is a little bit too close to Russia for comfort.
Now, you say, and I could go on for an hour about this piece, which I hope our readers will find. Our Miserable 21st Century is its name. But you say that people in our world are constantly talking about income inequality. And you have this line, forever virtue signaling about how personally opposed to it they are, of course. But you say it's an abstraction. The reality of economic insecurity is what matters. What does that mean?
I think that for most people in America, the great American escalator's broken down. We had a great escalator that was lifting each generation to new heights, yes, of prosperity, and people over the course of their lives. Since about the year 2000, that hasn't been working. And that's why people feel insecurity. That's why people feel anxiety.
Yes.
People don't feel jealous of Bill Gates because he made all of this money and this fantastic set of innovations for us. People want their own lives and their kids' lives to be better.
Yes.
And that's where the anxiety and the insecurity is.
If there's one problem, and we're almost out of time, but if there's one problem you could solve to restart that American escalator, what would it be?
If you tried to do it from Washington, and Washington can only do so much, it would have to do with getting small businesses a little bit more free. We've been in a net business death environment since about the year 2007. They've been drowning under regulations. They've been drowning under burdens. It's not the big corporations. It's the mom and pop smaller businesses that generate the jobs for people. Free them up and let them do what they want to do.
So it goes back to the beginning, to work. It's about work. Men Without Work is the name of your book, not surprisingly. Nicholas Eberstadt, thanks a lot.
Hey, thanks so much.